Nice playing, sir. Now, for those of you who didn't see the other video, this is Chris Buck.
Hello.
Amazing guitar player who I've been aware of for quite some time, and he's got a load of licks that I wanted to steal. I was going to start transcribing them off a YouTube video, and instead I thought I'd give him a call and see if he'd want to come and kind of show me what the hell's going on there, and I can share it with you guys too. So thanks so much for making the drive down here.
Absolute pleasure, man. I think I stole them in the first place, so it's a circle of thievery.
That should be where it's at, really.
Yeah.
So, I saw you playing before I got you to do a little solo thing before. I was trying to figure out, like, what is this little thing? And it's very much this very fast little slide backwards and forwards. And you're using it. It's not even just one way. That seems to be the trick, but you found these
different ways
avenues
to incorporate
for it.
I guess,
and it's wicked. I still can't kind of get my head around how you're able to do it. So, is it something you've tried to analyse yourself already, or not?
This is the thing, as soon as I try and reverse engineer anything, you start to sort of, well, A, where the hell did that come from? Why did I start doing that? It was never a conscious thought process, I guess. It's a big thing for me, has always been listening to singers. I got my grandfather to thank for that, for making me listen to Frank Sinatra. And the kid, when we were driving along in the car, going, listen to his phrasing. And my grandfather wasn't a musician, but just kind of ingrained that in me from quite an early point. And inherent in that phrasing is all the inflections. You called them inflections earlier. It's those little idiosyncrasies and nuances, just little things that make a singer identifiably unique, I guess. And whether it's Sinatra or whether it's a big favourite of mine has always been Sam Cooke. I think Sam Cooke has just got the most gorgeous voice ever. And again, his phrasing and his kind of everything about his voice was just effortless. And a big thing has always been trying to kind of incorporate that on some level into the guitar. And I think people get very sort of caught up in the idea of, well, it's a guitar, I play it like a guitar, and I listen to other guitar players for inspiration. And it's no different to a piano, really. It's just a piano with strings. No different, the same as it's an accordion, it's a bugle, it's a musical instrument, and there shouldn't be any limitations within that. So I've always approached it very much from the perspective of, well, I listen to singers, let's try and make it sound like a singer. So that for me has always been a big part of just a singer's vibrato or a singer's way of maybe, what's it called, glissando. This is where my lack of theory is going to come in. Sliding into notes or sliding out of them. All those little sort of things that are just inherent in great singers. So I think if I'm thinking of the right thing that you're talking about, is that kind of, is that the kind of thing, or?
Yeah. Both.
So,
but you're doing it on chords as well. Like I was seeing you doing like.
Yeah.
I was like. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's rip that one apart, because that's what. Okay, again, one more time. Just do it on the. Are you mainly hitting that, or is the other one coming up as well?
I don't know.
Both.
Now I try and slow it down. I don't know what I'm doing. This is the thing.
Again, just do it again. Let me try and figure it out.
It's too fast, isn't it? I think it's both. Yeah, it's both. Yeah, that's getting there. Yeah,
are you picking it again?
No. I think if you pick... There we go.
There we go. Are you keeping thumb on?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so there's the challenge.
Yeah, you got it. I think if you pick it, it sounds a little bit too deliberate, maybe. It's kind of... It's too clunky. There we go, nice.
Yeah, it's about getting it just over the fret.
Yeah.
But it's not like a normal big...
That's the thing, it's... You can allude, that's the thing, you can cover a multitude of sins, I think, by just very subtly alluding to notes that, in what way, shape or form is... That isn't in it, but I'm touching that note, you know? So, yeah, it's
Okay, so this would be a C lick for you.
Yeah.
Right? C major.
Yeah.
This is based off of this chord shape.
Yeah.
And this is that classic Hendrixy. Yeah. Now, my advice just for you guys at home that are trying to do this, the first part would definitely be trying to get this right. And then Now, the rhythm of that is also important. That
Yeah.
So this is falling on the beat again. This is
Yeah.
on the beat. Then this
Yeah.
is at the end of the beat before here on beat 2. So
Yeah. Cool. I got it.
so
Yeah.
rhythmically,
Yeah. Cool.
that would be how my approach to doing this, or what I will be doing probably after Chris leaves, is trying to get my head around some of these things. So, and I would just go about trying to practice that one lick before I steal any more of it. Well, I'm going to try and steal some more now, but generally speaking, if I'm learning stuff like this, it's taken one little phrase like that, and then I'll try and work it into something like what we were doing before, where I might go. I don't know if it works on a minor.
I guess the minor, I think I've always struggled to incorporate
weird.
the thumb with a minor, so it turns into more that kind of.
But you'd use these two as opposed to those. It sounds kind of odd, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? It's, I guess with what you. That's the big one. So.
Oh.
You got it. Again, that.
Are you doing that?
I'm not. That's the thing. I'm not doing the major harmony. So that would be the sort of. If you try to make it that, but that makes it too clunky for me at least.
Okay.
So it's more of a case of. So it's more a case of getting that note and not worrying about that one. So
okay, let me again. I'm going to try and break. If you don't mind, I'm trying to work. Partly because it's good for me to digest stuff. If any of you guys out there don't realise that when you teach something, you have to learn it better yourself. So by me explaining it to you, I'm kind of making sure it's real clear in my mind. And if it's not, the guy here who I'm learning it from, I can pester. So when we tried to do it on the A minor, so this was a C major lick. And the progression we just had a little jam on earlier was C major, A minor, F to F minor. So I tend to take a lick and then try and fit it around a chord progression that's familiar. So when it comes to the A minor, but that doesn't sound very good. So it's like, oh, that doesn't work. And so he said that he's using this little thirds pattern. Only to do it properly, harmonically, we'd be in the key of C, which would mean that we have this different fingering up here on the third kind of chord, little interval thing. But that makes the fingering difficult. So Chris is saying instead of going this, which is harmonically correct, he's going and using this, which it's kind of a wrong note.
When you slow it down, it sounds horrible.
Yeah, exactly. But when it's so quick, you don't notice that's out of tune. What's the rhythm of it? How are you doing?
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
You got it. Nice, that was it. That was nailed.
Yeah. It's a funny little flicky motion.
It is, isn't it?
It's nice though.
I think a big kind of if I try to reverse engineer it and trace it back to where that maybe come from. I remember watching Derek Trucks for the first time and just being. I've never been a slide guy. My slides playing. You had Ariel in the other week. It's a thing outside of my understanding. I can't do it as much as I try. So I need to sit down with him actually and have a lesson. But just watching Derek Trucks for the first time and realizing that kind of freedom. You're not restricted by frets. You're not restricted by these very sort of strict delineations of whatever. And just trying to replicate that in some way. And like I said, that kind of ties into the vocal thing then, because with vocals, you don't step up, in kind of notes or whatever. It's just a freedom to move between them. So I guess the heart of that, rather than the actual harmony part of it, is maybe just to kind of break it down to and another way of doing that then, or maybe not even slide it. That bend thing.
No, but you just did another variation of that slide, which I really like.
Right.
Which is the bend followed by the slide.
Oh, right, okay.
So hang on, so let's just finish on the A minor. I'm going to play referee here.
Racing ahead.
So what I'm going to try and do is tab out all of these examples. So as I'm gleaning his licks, I'm going to write them out.
How do you tab this stuff? That's the thing. What is this all little?
I'll just write it down.
Turns into algebra, doesn't it?
I mean. that's a separate conversation, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, what I recommend for people to do is to learn how to write a tab out, which is dead easy, like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
frets
yeah.
are on the strings, and then learn the rhythm. Because
Yeah.
learning dots is because that's all the same dot.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
makes it real difficult. But
Yeah.
tab says, here's where you play the note if you're a guitar player,
Yeah.
which is more useful.
Yeah.
But then having an understanding of rhythm,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think is
absolutely.
really,
Yeah.
if you can write down rhythm,
Yeah.
it helps me think of the
Structure
rhythm
a
and
little bit,
memorize it or whatever. But
Oh, I'm just wondering with the little weird sort of slidey, sort
yeah.
of slightly out of tune bits.
well, they
or
could
whatever.
be the grace note. You could write them rhythmically
Oh,
as
okay,
grace
yeah,
notes,
cool.
where
Cool.
it's like it doesn't really have a rhythm, but they're so because they're so short. Like
Yeah.
going,
Yeah. Oh, cool.
you're not going to write
Yeah.
because it's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
It's
I got
so
you.
the other ones are just kind of incidental.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Cool,
anyway,
sorry.
I'll try and tab out these licks for you. Now let's move on to this next one because this is another.
All right.
What I really love about this thing, which I see as kind of inherently part of your style, is that you've taken it and you're not just using it like on that one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You're using it in all these ways. I'm like, now that I've got the trick, I'm starting to understand it a little bit. But you just did it. I think you did it accidentally and went,
probably,
you
yeah.
said maybe without the slide too.
Right, okay,
Because
so-
you went like, and then you went, yeah. So you're bending up and then you're doing the slide up from the
There you go.
lovely.
You got it.
Does it work on a tone as well? Wow. You're saying sometimes you get bored of stuff and you're looking
Yeah.
for, like, you get bored of your own playing?
That's the thing,
I'm
yeah.
totally in that zone myself and looking for new food. And this is exactly the kind of stuff where I'm
Oh,
like,
cool.
I could get weeks out of these ideas because for me, they're really fresh.
Yeah, that's the thing I was saying earlier. I just kind of do so much playing with videos and with whatever. I'm constantly listening to myself, and I think it's just you get bored of hearing.
Oh,
You know.
not just that. I get sick of the sound of my own voice, man. When
Yeah,
I have to
oh, yeah,
edit all
yeah.
of the videos because I've got to watch everything I do back at least a couple of times.
Yeah.
I hate the sound of my voice when I hear it back.
It's,
It drives me mad.
It's first world problems, I
Also,
suppose. isn't it?
no, absolutely. Grass is always greener. And,
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to be lick number 2. Will just be this. I guess we can think A minor pentatonic, but doing like a semitone bend, and then from the bend, releasing the bend and sliding up a semitone.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
No, I'm over bending.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
And again, just for you guys out there, for practicing this stuff, I will definitely be putting on a backing track later and then just trying this one lick over and over again. Probably a few different backing tracks to get used to the feel of it in different situations, because it'll feel different rhythmically when it's a straight feel, when it's a shuffle feel, when it's a ballad or whatever. So and it does work for a tone, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah,
Do you use it on a tone
Yeah.
bend as well?
Wouldn't necessarily. So it's more of a
You're going a tone bend and a semitone
so
on the slide.
I guess you could do a tone.
It doesn't have the same
It doesn't.
little-
No, it's more of a deliberate thing then.
I like it though, because then you get
Yeah, exactly. You get the little chromatic kind
Yeah.
of element of it. This is
Yeah.
my gripe, is that there's so much of, not my guitar playing per se, but kind of all the great guitar playing, which is out of tune, quote marks. You know, there's so much of it which is, it's relative to whatever is happening, obviously musically, but there's so much of it which is just reliant on little chromatic sort of, if you almost just infer a note so much as just not actually kind of play it, you can get away with it because it's
Yeah.
not, you're not lingering on it. You know, if you were in,
you can get away with, like,
Oh,
the
get away
great
with
jazz
murder.
players or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
That can be part of the creation of
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the whole thing. If you're looking at like
yeah,
or whatever, a jazz thing, you're playing this note A,
yeah.
and you go, seriously?
I remember,
Because then it goes.
yeah,
And it's going to
yeah.
resolve. So you can think of it that way.
I remember the first time I played a years and years ago. I remember the first time I came across a major seventh chord, and I was kind of like, well, that's the root, and then that's flat of the root. How does that work? And kind of playing it, I was like, well, that sounds really pretty. So why does that work? And this sort of realization that it doesn't have to be, bang on the money, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
And the prettiest chords all have things that I always use this as an example when I'm teaching this. It's like, that's a pretty foul interval, right? But you stick it in this.
Yeah.
And it sounds amazing.
Sounds gorgeous,
so it's kind of like, contextually, I think sometimes you need a bit of dissonance to make things beautiful. In art as well, funnily enough. I think you quite often, the most brilliant artwork has something about it that's a bit like, just
throw you off very slightly.
So, okay, now back to this. How else are you conscious you're using this? So we can use it in this particular chord.
Yeah.
And you're using it on a bend?
Yeah, the bend thing, I guess. A lot of the stuff I do is kind of one finger, I guess. So that is obviously a good example of using my first and my ring finger. My little finger, I get so much abuse for leaving out my little finger. A mate of mine who doesn't play guitar, plays drums, so has no comprehension of any of this. Suddenly became aware the other day, sat in work, and he said the adjacent monitor to him, his computer monitor, suddenly hear my voice coming out of it. So someone's watching my video, and the guy opposite is going, "Oh, have you seen this guitar player? He's relatively local." So my mate's ear picks up, and someone else comes in and goes, "He's useless, he doesn't use his little finger." So I had a text off my mate going, "Apparently you're crap because you don't use your little finger." So I get a boost for not using my little finger more, to be honest. So a lot of the stuff I do is based on my first and third.
So nearly all of the great guitar players I have ever seen mostly use fingers 1, 2 and 3, and the little finger just comes into play when you need it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's something that I thought about for a long time myself. Like, I'm not using my little finger as much, and I've got this, my little finger's like really stumpy compared to the other ones. So I was like, well, that's my excuse. But actually, most of the great guys don't anyway. It's the weakest finger. Hardly anyone bends with it except for maybe Yngwie and these. Like, if you're doing a really complicated technical run like I can't do, maybe you would finish with your little finger and do a bend, but otherwise why would you bend with your weakest finger?
It's innately quite weak, isn't it? It's just there, really, so a lot of the stuff I do is based on my first, second and third finger, and with a lot of the bends, the first and second come into play just to kind of bolster the third, kind of give it a little bit of extra strength, I guess. But I do a lot of stuff with my first finger as well, so it's probably worth saying it's kind of that sort of, so it's exactly the same thing, just using your first finger. And there we go. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a. And if there is a point to that, which is debatable, I guess, it's that you develop a little bit more control. People's third finger, I guess, tends to be the one that they're very used to using for maybe bending or sliding or that kind of stuff, and not necessarily your first finger. So I do a lot of bending with my first finger as well, kind of, sort of, that sounds awful now, but kind of.
So you're using the same inflection though, this little backwards and forwards thing, you're using it as a bend as well. So you might well go, instead of, you'll go.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, spot on. And
it is very vocal.
Yeah, that's what I've set about trying to do if, I guess I'd got to an age where, like, Slash was my big influence growing up. Just a massive Slash fan. Backcomb my hair, which is why I've ended up with this bird's nest. And just wanted to emulate Slash in every sort of conceivable way, the low slung Les Paul, the stack of Marshalls or whatever in your local pub. That went down well. And just, it got a little bit boring. It got to the point where kind of it ceased to be a compliment when people go out and go, "Wow, you sound just like Slash." And for a little while, that's like, "Oh, amazing, I sound like Slash." And then after a while, it's kind of like, "Oh, cool, I want to sound like me at some point in all this." And I guess I was relatively fortunate in that journey started relatively young. I would have been about 16, 17. Because from the age I picked up the guitar, I devoted myself to nothing else other than playing guitar. I relatively lucky, I guess, in that it was the only.
How old were you when you started?
12, 13 maybe. Okay. But it was the only thing I've ever done in my life where I felt like there was this sort of natural level of aptitude for, where it was kind of like, oh cool, this feels like this makes sense, as opposed to skateboarding, trying to do an ollie for 6 months and getting nowhere and just beating myself up that I'm not Tony Hawk yet. Suddenly it was kind of, I would hear something, and I guess it's relative to what you're listening to at the time, and 13-year-old me was big into punk rock, so whether it's Blink-182, if I'd gone into that and kind of straight away picked up a Grant Green record, I probably would have been a little bit more disheartened, but it's relative to what you're learning at that particular time, I guess. So I was enthused by the idea that suddenly I could replicate Tom DeLonge or whatever, and then that turned into Slash over a little while, I guess. And just like I said, the journey started of sort of trying to find my own voice relatively young. I guess for a lot of guys that doesn't happen, if it ever happens at all. You know, it's not a conscious thought
So
process.
this let's call it a move because I can't think of
Yeah,
a description for it. This little semitone and tone slidey thing. It's not something that you picked up off of someone. It wasn't like you heard Jeff Beck do it once, copied it, and then went, "Oh, I'm going to use this more extensively." Or
no, I guess not. And the sort of insinuation behind that is that I've invented it, which is not the case. I can guarantee you'll find other people doing that.
Yeah,
I'm
not saying. I'm not trying to egg you into staking claim on something because in music all of that's bollocks anyway.
Copyright it.
Yes, exactly. You can get on YouTube and start claiming any time that somebody does a
slidey bendy thing,
semitone slide thing,
little R after it. I won't be the first guy to have done this, but it was not something that I kind of picked up off someone else, I guess, in that respect. It was something that maybe subconsciously sort of got into me through vocalists. Like I said, I've been a big Otis Redding fan, Ella Fitzgerald, all these guys that my parents kind of introduced me to. You know, my mother especially is a massive pop music fan, so Phil Collins and ABBA. So I guess on some level there, this kind of the appreciation of songcraft a little bit. Or my old man was a big Clapton fan. Clapton was the first ever gig I went to. I might as well. Well, I was sat in a different postcode, I think, to Clapton. He was in Birmingham. I was in Wolverhampton, I think. But it's just all this kind of amalgamation of influences that's kind of crept into my playing. And vocalists were a big part of that. Like I said, my grandfather sitting me down and going, listen to Nat King Cole, listen to the instrumentation on this, and being like, this doesn't sound like Blink-182, but just on some level trying to glean something from it, you know, thinking, well, even if I don't like this at this moment in time when I'm 13, you know, these guys are held in such high regard and high esteem, there's got to be something to be gleaned from Billie Holiday, you know, and trying to kind of just nick little bits from it. It's all theft, isn't it? It's all sort of what you can get away with, so... just nicking little bits from vocalists, and that would be, if there is any advice to be had from me, is that sort of step outside of your kind of thing of like, if you want to be a great guitar player, don't just listen to the guys that are great guitar players, listen to great musicians, full stop, you know, whether that's you know, kind of great horn players in jazz, or, you know, whether it's Coltrane, or whether it's Miles Davis, or whether it's whoever.
See, I find like Coltrane for me on the guitar is really uncomfortable. If you learn giant steps or whatever, there's not a nice way to fit it under the fingers. It's just awkward no matter what way you look at it. But there are other guys. The most notable for me is Dave Sanborn.
Oh, right,
He's got this album called Straight to the Heart. It's like, it's pretty cheesy, right? But some of the lines and licks on guitar, it's like blues pentatonic. It works real well, and that really opened up my ears to approaching the pentatonic differently, because it is still kind of pentatonic-y bluesy, but you know,
absolutely,
that's quite vocal. Dave Sanborn's quite a vocal saxophonist.
So much of it, that's the great thing about listening to great vocalists, is that a lot of it is, once you try and replicate the inflections and the little nuances that make it vocal sounding, 99% of it is just major pentatonic, or just straight major, or minor pentatonic. You know, that was a big thing for me, was when I got into that, if there was any conscious process involved in it, it was I would never transcribe anything, I can't do that, but I would try and learn a melody.
You can transcribe stuff.
Well, I can write down stuff, basically, but, you know, I wouldn't be so bold as to try and tab something out note for note, you know, I'm not that, my attention span isn't that good, no mind anything else, but
can I just mention, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for something, just for them out there. What you can do is probably more valuable than the writing it down thing, because all of the guys that I know that are like the top of the tree guys, they can all transcribe, and they probably do, but transcribing into your head instead of on the page, so you've memorized it, is much more valuable. Like if you can listen to, I don't know, a Grant Green record or whatever, and hear a lick and then steal that lick and be able to do it, that's more valuable than the guy trying to write it down.
Trying to read the dots. You know? Well, this is the thing. I remember, again, shout out to my first guitar teacher, Greg Hunt, and I had another guitar teacher, briefly, Chris Fry, who both very much instilled that in me, in terms of the dots are great, but if you find yourself in a jam night, or you find yourself thrust on stage, like the biggest one I've done, I guess, I got and played with Slash in Birmingham, and
that's cool.
Yeah, that was. I'll pick up that name I just dropped.
Honk.
Honk. But you know, prior to soundcheck, I had no idea what I was playing. It was just a blues jam, but obviously that's a fairly wide term, so I had no idea what it was going to be, and if my kind of background had been very much based in, well, I learned stuff and I tab stuff out, you know, not to criticise that at all. That's just, I think people's brains work differently, you know, and I've always been a case of wing it a little bit, you know, that's been whether it was my GCSEs or whether it was learning to drive or playing guitar, you know, just kind of, cool, we'll get on with it, it'll be fine. Just tell my insurance that. It was just, well, suddenly you're thrown into the deep end and you can swim your way out of it a little bit because you've had a background in just listening to stuff and picking it up, as opposed to going, right, well, I need to get the dots or I need to get the tab to learn that. And like I said, that was the big thing for me, was trying to, in some way, transcribe vocalists. The point I was going to make is just listening to not just the notes, but the way that kind of, well, maybe he sort of slides into that note, or maybe that note starts flat and then goes into the correct pitch, you know, and trying to just replicate that, and then that suddenly takes it from being, well, you're just playing a melody on a guitar, to suddenly you're making that sound like the melody. So yeah, just listen to great singers and try and sort of work out great melodies, you know. And that inherently, that'll make your playing more melodic. That's the beauty of that, is you'll start thinking melodically as opposed to sort of box-wise or shape-wise or scale-wise, you know. Ariel had a great name for it when I did some stuff with him recently, said scale-itis. People get very caught in that kind of, well, that's the scale, I'm going to play in that. And it's kind of like, well, you don't have to. You can play wherever you want, really. It just, if you feel confined by something, you know, by very definition, you're kind of limiting yourself to just that. So
it's funny, I had a similar chat with Larry Carlton
honk
15 years ago, honk, and I was asking him about how he sees relationships between chords, and whether he sees the notes around chords or whatever. And he said it's just sounds. So he can play any lick or anything that he's playing anywhere on the fretboard because it is just a sound. And it's one of my main things if I ever actually practice properly. It's like I try and find a melody that I know really well, even a nursery rhyme or whatever,
and play it
and
everywhere.
I just play it without thinking about it, without thinking of scale, shapes, or patterns. It's just like, I'm here. Can I play this? Starting on this note, and it's such a great exercise in connecting that idea of melody with your hand, which is kind of the key.
It makes stuff relative then, doesn't it? It sort of puts it into context, and it's like people with perfect pitch or whatever, you know. It's kind of, I haven't got perfect pitch by any stretch, but my sort of relative pitch is developing where I can kind of figure out, well, that note followed by that note, well, that's a semitone, or that's a tone, or that's a tone and a half. And being able to do that, I think, is invaluable.
That I find fine. It's, for me, it's like when it's a big jump, like a sixth or something like that. On the guitar, sometimes I'll be like, even if I can sing it, I'm still like
stretching to find it.
Exactly. I find
so just bend.
I'm still
fine, don't worry.
I'm still practicing it. You know, it's something I don't.
Oh, it's an ongoing.
I don't see myself running out of things to practice anytime soon. I reckon we should have a little play.
Yeah, cool.
But knowing that I'm going to stop you when you're doing some more of that stuff, because I reckon there are more cool ways that you're using that little trick.
Right, yeah.
So, what do you want to play over? Give me a groove or something, and then I'll start copying it, and you can go off into a solo, whatever you like.
It's kind of something we did major, didn't we? So maybe kind of minor. So.
Okay. You've got one already. What was it? A double stop single finger version.
Again, it's kind of you know, whether it's that's weird. Do you know what? I'm reverse engineering this stuff as we do it. When I did it down there, I bent it.
Bend.
But
that's nice.
I guess. Yeah. There we go.
It's the rhythm. Part of this, the trick of this. It's not just what you're playing, it's the rhythm of how
you're playing.
It's going up to the note, and then the little flick, which is... It still feels weird under my hand.
It's
I hear my dog going crazy outside. He's like, it's time to go to the pub, man. What are you doing talking about guitar stuff? Let's go to the pub. I want to see some other dogs. It's the rhythm of that, and that's what's going to take, actually, I think. The practice probably for me and other people is going to be not just the lick, but trying to figure out how to use the lick rhythmically correctly.
Put it into context, I guess.
And that was over A minor.
Yeah.
See, this is like, in theory, that's like you're playing an
Exactly, yeah.
A sharp
Where
or
does
B
that
flat.
come
It's
into
like,
it? Yeah.
you can't do that, but it sounds terrific. So
You just
that's,
allude
you
to
know.
it momentarily. You can get away with murder.
Okay, let's keep going. Sorry,
Cool, yeah,
but this is, I think, valuable. I'll tab that lick out as well because that's another lovely one. Here we
Cool.
go. 3, 4. Man,
Gotta get used to having a tremolo on.
Dude, all sorts of awesome stuff here. I was trying to track. There were loads of times when my ears pricked up, and every time, like looking for that lick.
Yeah.
Nearly every time it was an extension of what we've talked about.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to just stop each time to go like, oh, this is not the same lick. I'm not trying to
No. It
pat it down. It's a
absolutely
wonderful embellishment.
Yeah.
But you're just using it so well, and I think that probably the gig for me and anyone out there that wants to use that a little bit, rather than trying to just steal every little phrase, is to try and explore that as an idea, because there's so many ways that you're finding to incorporate that in.
It's
and I couldn't spot like a specific pattern yet. I'm going to watch this video back probably and just go like, yeah, exactly where is he doing that? But
it's like you said, it's putting it in context and making sure it's musical, I guess, ultimately, because it's a simple concept and it just pops up in different places and in different guises, I guess. But
I've just thought of another. Sorry, just to divert. One of the other ones that it's a separate trick.
Yeah.
Right, is the first finger backwards rake.
Oh, right, yeah.
But you're doing it so
it's my third finger. Now,
it's your third finger because you're holding your pick with your first.
Yeah, this is going back to that phase of my life playing Offspring and Blink-182 and all that kind of stuff. For some reason, God knows why, I use nothing but my first finger. I ditched the plectrum and just everything was like that, which consequently just destroyed that nail.
I was going to say, yeah.
So that nail just ceases to grow beyond any kind of length.
Right.
And
I had the same thing actually.
Oh, really?
First fingernails knackered.
I just don't know what got into me to do that. And subsequently, I can, but I can, if I try and finger pick with that or use my nail, it just, it'll snap it given any amount of time, but the sensation of the string digging into the nail is like nails down a chalkboard. So it kind of seemed to make sense to use my index finger. And then using
index finger to hold the pick.
Index finger to hold the pick. Middle finger to kind of do the thing, and then I guess in essence that gives you a little bit of a claw kind of thing.
So it might mean that you can dig in a little bit more because when you're doing it sounds quite powerful,
percussive, I guess. Yeah, it's I'm quite aggressive, if that's the word. Player, I guess. It's quite, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Aggressive, I guess, is the word. But just digging in is a big part of it, and making sure it's all about dynamic range, and that has a much different sound. You know, and it's only so hard you can play with a black drum without whatever. So just giving yourself the infinite, amount of, or as much dynamic range as possible. And a big
so you're always using that up rake thing is always going to be with your little thing.
Yeah.
Ah, that's so good. See, this is like a masterclass on that one little trick in 1,000 ways, but it's so tasteful and nice.
It's again, really. It's colour, isn't it? It's sort of
yeah, but you're using it in a way that's really, really amazing. I think it's like melodic and musical and vocal, but at the same time, like whoa, it's got like a Stevie Ray kind of thing going on, but it doesn't sound derivative of that. So
this is the thing, I guess, is that if you try and sit down and learn this, then the temptation is, or the process of getting better at that is to incorporate it into stuff. And I guess inevitably for a little while, it's going to be, none of what I do at this point is like a conscious thought process. And I think if I were to try and, like I said, reverse engineer or deconstruct anything I do and make it a conscious thought process, I'd be a worse player for it, because I'm the worst for getting lost inside my own head and trying to cerebralize, if that's a word, things that don't need thinking about, but the process is just start doing it, and over time it'll develop into something that's just kind of an extra little bit on the Swiss Army knife, and not the sort of, I suddenly have this to use.
It's like I very much think of music as like a language-based thing, particularly like guitar and phrases and whatever, that the scales are just the alphabet. So if you just worry about trying to speak alphabet, it's not the right approach. For me, this is like an inflection or an accent that I can use, and I want to nick some of it. No, there's no question I'm going to be trying to rip off some of these, but I wouldn't want to, like, for it to become my whole thing, because it's your thing. I don't want to just be a copy of someone else. I want to go, I love the sound of this. I'm going to nick this little part and try and... I kind of feel like it's a pot of words. Yeah, exactly. And if I can add some new things in there to keep me interested and to keep me... exactly. Chuck it and try this for a little while. I think that's a really interesting...
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. It's a good analogy in there. It is, like you said, you don't speak alphabet, you speak words and you speak phrases. And that's what it's all about. It's just adding to that vocabulary, ultimately, I guess. So,
man. Chris, thank you so much for coming and sharing your tips with us.
Absolute pleasure.
I think it's probably time we go to the pub and have a pint
very
of
good
some
to me.
food.
That's what I came for. So.
Hope you guys enjoyed this little session. Big thanks to Chris. We'll put links in the description to his YouTube channel, and over on the website I'll try and get some of this stuff tabbed out, and I'll write up some notes about if I can try and intellectually digest what's going on a little bit more. That'll help probably myself explore it more, and maybe you guys to dig into it as well. So I hope this was good fun for you. See you for more very soon. Say bye-bye to the internet, Chris.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.